Wednesdays, but we have dueling clocks in here today, so I don't know whether to say good morning or good afternoon. So let's just say hello. And with that, we do not have a quorum. We will start this process. All of the actions taken will be communiques from the chair. And last time I checked, that's me. All right, so with that said, why don't we deal with some of the non-controversial items, starting with item number 1.
Item number 1 is a report from the CRA and the CLA and a resolution relative to an agreement with the Los Angeles Unified School District for the development of a skate park at Joseph LeConte Middle School.
Okay, on item 1, we'll adopt the CLA report. Item 2.
Item 2 is a report from the CRA and the CLA relative to a purchase order for legal services related to the Vermont-Manchester Commercial Development Project.
Okay, on item 2, we'll adopt the CLA report again. Item 3.
Item 3 is a report from the CRA and the CLA and a resolution relative to a pre-development permanent loan agreement for the development of the 28th Street YMCA.
Okay, on item 3, we will adopt the CLA report.
Item 4?
Item 4.
Item
4, please.
Okay. Item 4 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to the acquisition of a city-owned parcel located at 5975 Southwestern Avenue.
Okay, on item 4, we will adopt the CAO report, and I'm pleased that we are now joined by my colleague Ed Reyes. That brings us to item 5.
Item 5 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to an implementation agreement with the Community Development Department to receive community development block grant funds previously allocated for the purchase of an easement in the Council District 9 corridor south of the Santa Monica Freeway Recovery Redevelopment Project area.
Okay, so on item 5, we'll adopt the CAO report. Item 6, we will continue that item, bringing us to item 7.
Item 7 is a report from the CDD and the CAO relative to accepting a traffic safety grant from the state of California.
Okay, on item 7, we'll adopt the CAO report.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. There actually is no CAO report on that item. It would be the CDD report.
Okay. Item 8.
Item 8 is a Motion Perry Parks and CAO report relative to providing a community development block grant float loan in an amount of up to $2.37 million to the CRA for the Avalon Park project.
Okay, now it's my understanding that there are some amendments
Yes.
that go along with this item. Would you like to read those amendments?
Yes, sir. We're recommending that the float loan be approved subject to agency board approval of the necessary recommendations that would secure the loan as described in the CAO report.
Okay, so then we will adopt the CAO report with the amendments. Item 9.
Item 9 is a motion Perry Garcetti relative to authorizing the CRA to seek federal, state, and other funds to help backfill the loss of redevelopment dollars resulting from the state's taking to meet its Proposition 98 obligations to schools.
Okay, then we'll adopt that motion. Item 10.
Item 10 is a report from the CRA and the CAO relative to repealing policies concerning janitorial wages and benefits, child support compliance, and Americans with Disabilities Act compliance.
Okay, then we will adopt the CAO report on that item. So, Mr. City Attorney, it should be noted that up to this point, every action that was taken so far is a communique from the chair.
Yes, sir.
Brings us to item 11. Ms. Barclay, if you could please read this item.
Yes, sir. Item 11 is a report from the Los Angeles Housing Department and the CAO relative to awarding contracts from the Handy Worker and Home Secure request for proposals.
Okay, if staff could come forward. Don't be shy. Good morning. Who starts off?
I can do those. Sure.
Good morning. I'm Angelica Samayo with the CAO's office.
Where have you been?
I've been here. I'm just not called to the
You
table.
mean you've been here and I just didn't see you?
Unfortunately, maybe.
You've been quiet?
Yes.
Oh.
I've been listening.
Andrew, has she really been here? Oh, boy, I'm getting old. Okay. Continue.
Okay. Approval of the CAO report before you provides for approval of the results of the request for proposals process for the handiworker and the home secure programs. Back in April 2009, the council and the mayor authorized housing department to issue the request for proposals. Now, at the time, we were approaching the close to the start of the program year, since these are CDBG funds. So the prior contractors were authorized to continue services until the results of this RFP were known. Because of that opportunity to extend contracts, those contracts will end at the end of this month. So effective October 1st, these new contractors would start services for 6 months through to the end of the program year. So therefore, approval of this action would authorize Housing Department to execute new professional services agreements with 13 contractors selected through this RFP process. For the handiworker program, this represents 9 contractors, totaling up to $1.9 million. For the home secure program, this represents 4 contractors, totaling approximately $300,000. The first year of these PSAs will be effective for 6 months, as I mentioned earlier. These will be effective from October the 1st, 2009 through March 31st, 2010, and they will include 2 one-year renewal options. The CAO report provides a detailed summary of the services to be provided and the list of the recommended contractors in attachments A and B of this report. We have 2 additional recommendations. While the department requested authority to make funding adjustments as needed throughout the year, we felt that the Charter Ad Code Section 14.8 already allows the department to do that. However, in further discussing with the department, what we realize is the charter only allows for each department to execute amendments up to 25% of whatever the base contract amount is. Given that these new contractors would only be in place for 6 months, that means that they'd only get to execute amendments based on 25% of 6 months funding. But handiworker was funded for a full year, which means that some of the existing contractors may have unexpended funding. There is a high demand for this program, and so we wanted to we felt in discussing with the department that it is very likely that they'll have unexpended funds before the end of the program year that could be used in other parts of the city. For instance, South LA and portions of the valley where there may be a lot of homes that have not been repaired. Therefore, we recommend that the department be authorized a one-time just for the first 6 months up to 50% of the base amount of funding, which, given that there is a year's worth of funding for handiworker, it means that they would get basically double the authority that they would normally get, and that is allowed through this ad code, provided that the council approves that authority for them. And again, this authority would only be based on an analysis of performance by contractors, a review of the demands and the needs across the city. They would still be subject to the mayor's executive directive 3, which means it would still be reviewed, and if our office is asked, we will review it. Anything above that recommended limit would need council approval, and the department would come forward for that. In addition, we are also recommending that a provision be added to the contracts in the spirit of trying to encourage contractors to work with the city worksource centers. Our recommendation is that if any of the contractors need to hire new employees, that they work with the city's worksource center. So we do have a recommendation there that the department work with Community Development Department to make sure that language is there, and that the contractors know exactly who to contact at their local worksource center to facilitate this.
Mr. City Attorney, this recommendation, do we have to make it an amendment, or what action?
Is it in the report?
It's in the report. It's a recommendation in the report.
So if we adopt the report,
Then we're
but of
fine.
course this is a communication, so it's not
Okay.
committee action.
Gotcha.
No, it's very verbose, but these are some of the highlights where our reports differed a little bit from the department, but they're in the spirit of what the department's trying to achieve through this program. And we did discuss this with the department. They were in agreement with.
Well, let's see what the department says. Good morning.
Good morning, Yolanda Chavez with the Housing Department. I'm here with Augustine Thompson, who's the manager for Handiworker Home Secure Program, and Doug Swager, who's the director for Homeownership and Preservation. We agree with the CAO's report, and we're open to your questions. As you know, the This program, well, both programs, but in particular Handiworker, is a very, very popular program. We already have long waiting lists for all of the areas. South Los Angeles tends to be the area with the most need and the longest wait list. Currently, there's a wait list there of over 400 households just for Handiworker. So again, this is a very popular program. It's we never have an issue with marketing the program. It's heavily used, and part of the reason that we wanted this authority to be able to shift funds if necessary is to ensure that the funds are expended, and if a contractor lacks the capacity to expend the funds, we would be able to allocate those funds to a contractor that could serve these households.
Okay, I'm going to play the role of Mr. Cardenas
Okay.
for a minute. In fact, is his mic on? Maybe I should move over there. Now, could you explain exactly what the program is?
Definitely. But I think I'd like Augustine to explain to you what the Handiworker program is and Home Secure.
That's good. She should earn her pay. Good morning.
I'll try. Good morning. The Handiworker program provides minor repairs for seniors 62 and older and for persons with disabilities. This year, we incorporated a few other items which will require them to have, to get a permit, but it's an e-permit where they don't have to do a plan or anything. One of the things we have with the Handiworker program, the contractors can expend up to $5,000 per project for each household. However, sometimes it's not enough, even though we don't have a rehab program anymore, and I think that's why we have such an influx of seniors coming to our program, because there's nowhere else to go. Even though the program can't handle some of the clients, we do have to turn away because our little $5,000 just can't do it all, like the roofing and things like that we can't do. But we've been partnering with Rebuild LA, houses that we absolutely cannot do. Rebuild LA, we've had a couple where they've gone in and done the work, and we come in and do some handiwork stuff. So we do the minor repairs, and as I said, it's not to keep saying this, but we don't have enough money. $5,000, it would be nice if we had more for like roofing and things like that, which is a big need in the LA community. But because they have to do, when contractors go in, they have to do a habitability. They go in to make sure there are no health and safety issues. Those issues have to be addressed first before we can do any work. And sometimes it takes up the $5,000. So most of them will spend right at the $5,000.
And so, where do when you say 5,000, is that materials included, lumber or whatever?
5,000 for labor and material, plus the $475 for administrative service fees to the contractor.
Have we ever had a discussion with groups like Lowe's or Home Depot about, partnering with us, providing needed materials so that we wouldn't have to, the contractor wouldn't have to buy it? Maybe there could be some kind of a donation type. Has anybody ever had that?
We've never had that, but we've been talking about that with my staff. We're trying to, people laugh when I say, let's go out and see if we can get people to donate. So that has been at the forefront. We just haven't done it yet.
Because even though every business is struggling, and I had toyed with this idea myself. I think it would make sense if the mayor's office or the CAO's office or the department would have some discussions with some of these larger home improvement centers, because they have to make a contribution to the community anyway. And if there was a way that we could work out an arrangement with them where they gave us a percentage of their donations would be given to our program, eliminating the cost of those materials, then we would be able to do more for the seniors who truly need it. So I don't know how we begin something like that.
We would definitely be willing to start having those discussions with the Home Depots and Lowe's, together with our contractors, to see what we could work out.
And maybe I'll ask the mayor if he would lead the effort or assign someone to coordinate that, because I would think that there would be a chance that we could work something out. It would be good publicity, and it would be a great service that is truly needed. So if I could get some feedback from you as to how we might start a program like that. We've been joined by Councilmember Jan Perry, another Tony Cardenas-esque question. How come we don't have city employees doing this?
It's definitely, and Augustine can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this program has a long history of hiring local contractors. And if you see the list of contractors, the majority, I would say 99.9%, are based in the city of Los Angeles. Majority of are minority-based organizations that hire locally. So this program provides jobs for lots of city residents, and of course, it's much less expensive to have them do this work than to have city employees do the work.
And that makes sense to me. Now, I was just passed a note that said we received some proposals from the East LA service areas, but they were weak proposals. Can anybody speak to why? What are the reasons?
From the East LA service area?
They may be referring to the contractors that did not meet threshold, I assume.
Okay, well, then,
We had several new applicants that didn't meet threshold.
well, I'll have Andrew ask somebody later. I don't want to belabor the point, but I would like for someone to get back with me to see if it makes sense at all to try to initiate some dialogues with some of the big home improvement centers. And then you have other places, you know, like there's a chain of Ace Hardware stores. There's a variety of entities that may be looking to make a contribution, and I guess it could be done in a way where that could be written off on taxes and what have you. Now, Mr. City Attorney, we have a forum, so we can take act. Everything we do from this point on is a committee action, not a communique from the chair.
Right, and you can go back and revisit the other items.
What I think I'm going to do is see if Mr. Reyes or Ms. Perry have any questions where it relates to this item. Mr. Reyes, the new look, Mr. Reyes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I do want to say, have you ever seen, look at that, is that a stylish shirt or what?
Nice material. That's beautiful.
I'm going to go show Miss Perry.
Okay. Monogram and everything.
Little spandex.
Mr. Reyes.
Okay.
Sorry for the disturbance.
I was just startled.
Well, I only put my cup there.
Okay, all right. A lot of bling. When you spoke of the funding pattern and the overlap, are we saying that this is going to be expanded for a whole year, a half year? I just wanted to get the gist of what the point was.
Okay, I'm sorry, it made more sense in my head, so that's communicated, but the program period, the CDBG funding that was set aside for this program is intended to be from April 1st, 2009 to March 31st, 2010. These contracts that are before you today begin October 1st, 2009, and the reason is because the RFP took a while. So if it comes to the point where the first 6 months of services that are currently being provided by the prior contractors, if any of those contractors, for whatever reason, staff capacity, they just don't spend all of their funds, those are savings.
So they roll over?
They would roll over at the end of the program year. They would automatically go back to the CDBG pot. The department, under the CDBG policy and guidelines, doesn't have authority to use, once the end of the program year comes, they can't use that funding because it's considered reprogramming. But within the program year itself, they would normally have authority to use all those monies. But since these contractors are coming in later in the game, it means that they could only receive additional surplus funds for their service area up to 25% of whatever their base amount is.
So my assumption is, since there's such a high demand, there's a waiting list, and you have this stable of contractors, you've got this money that's there. It can't be spent within that certain period of time, I'm assuming. So wouldn't we be able to use that money up quickly since we have such a high waiting list? I mean, what's stopping us from being able to absorb?
So just to give you an example of how this would work, the reason we want this authority is, like I said, the South LA area already has a wait list of 409 households. So there are 3 contractors that will start work in that area October 1st if you approve this item. If, say, by end of January, 2 of the contractors are doing very well, but the other contractor still has a long wait list, they haven't been able to expend the money, this would allow us to shift some money to maybe to the 2 other contractors to help with that wait list.
It just gives you the flexibility.
Exactly.
That's
This is
it.
the flexibility, that's all.
Okay. Now, when we do talk about the $5,000, what's considered a basic improvement? Are we talking about weatherization? What is a typical $5,000 expenditure? What is it that gets absorbed when you do this contract then? You go to a person's home and you're going to fix it. What gets fixed? What gets repaired? Typically.
A lot of times there's painting inside and out. Sometimes there's not plumbing, like fixing faucets, things like that. They can, most of the seniors want the doors, the screen doors. A lot of times they need the front doors replaced. Sometimes they need windows.
So who monitors the contractor to make sure it gets done right and that the money is being spent given what we have to address?
We have 2 monitors in our department, and they have the contractors are divided up amongst these 2 monitors. What happens is when the job is completed, if it's painting involved, we have a lead clearance guy that goes out, does the lead testing, and clears the job. When he's out there, he looks at all of the other things that was done supposedly on that list and check it off to make sure it was done properly. A lot of times, we will call too. We'll call the seniors to see if this was done. A lot of times, half of them don't remember what was done, so most of the time we go out to see. They're not paid until everything is completed.
Could I have a list of properties, addresses that were received that service in my district? And maybe I would like to just stop by and see how they're doing and what was done. If I can get a list of people who benefited from this program.
Okay.
Just give me 5 properties spread out throughout my district. I'd like to just see what happens, what got done, and understand the quality of the service.
What we'd like to send you is a list of all of the households served in your area by the 2, or in your district by the 2 programs in this last RFP, so from 0506 to 0809.
Okay, that'd be great. And just give me a chance to go out there and see. We've had a history in the city where we work with contractors and folks who make assumptions because we're the government, we're going to do a good job. And when I go back there and I find out people are being shortchanged, materials are shoddy materials, windows are crooked, doors don't close right, and they feel they have no choice but to accept that because it's from the government. And they don't know who to complain to. And it's usually people who don't speak English or who have been here and don't understand their rights. And so I just want to make sure it is what it is.
What you should know is that Augustine and her team do a really good job of tracking complaints. So if there's a complaint on work that was done, they go out to inspect it, and if it has to be redone, the contractor has to redo it without an additional fee.
I am not questioning their quality. I'm not questioning your service. I'm not questioning the amount of work you put in. It's just that with volume,
Right.
contractors go out there, things fall through the cracks. That's what I'm concerned about.
But one thing I found out with seniors, a lot of them are afraid to complain because they feel that if they complain, they won't get the service again when they need it. So what we've been doing and what we've started to do is even when the contractors go out, we always let them know, this program year, we're going to start giving some kind of notice to them. This is who you call. You don't sign off on the job, because a lot of them was signing off, you know, and they weren't satisfied because they felt they had to. So we're going to do something this year. We're going to pass out, have them sign something and give them our number, even though I get calls every day. A lot of them are not afraid to tell you that the work was sloppy.
Okay, I appreciate that. Again, I appreciate your hard work. It's truly needed, and these are the folks that need it the most, know the least. And so I'm glad you guys are out there.
And, Councilmember, I also wanted to mention, because you mentioned weatherization, and we have been working or talking to the contractors that receive the weatherization money from the state, because unfortunately the city was not allowed to apply for those funds. There are 4 or 5 contractors that receive the weatherization money from the state, and one of them actually happens to be one of the contractors that's being recommended for handiworker and has been a handiworker contractor for several years. That's PACE. So PACE will be incorporating weatherization with the handiworker program, but we're talking to the others how they can as well. And so we hope to have a meeting with them next month, once they're ready to start the program, to see how they can work with the rest of our contractors.
That does beg the question, do we leverage DWP programs along with the programs you already offer? I mean, there are programs there where they deal with weatherization, they deal with insulation, they deal with, you know, covering the gaps where you have drafts and keeping the heat in the house and, you know, keeping it cool when it's supposed to be. Do we leverage those programs?
A couple of our contractors do, such as PACE, but we have to get better at that and really informing our contractors as to how they can do that. So it's something that we need to continue to work on.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
But you know, Mr. Reyes does make a good point. It kind of goes back to what I was talking about, trying to form some partnerships with Home Depot or Lowe's or what have you. If there are monies that are available through DWP or through other entities, maybe somebody should come up with a way in which we could try to tap into those things. If you already have a contractor that's going to go to repair someone's home and it also needs to be, you know, weatherized or what have you, and if we could, I just think somebody might want to spend some time trying to figure out a way to lock in whatever is available from various sources to see if there's a way we can get, you know, maximize the money or leverage money that we have. If we were able to work something out and you got somebody to donate the materials and you found out there was a DWP program that did this and it happens to be with a contractor like PACE that has received a grant, maybe your $5,000 project turns out to be something of some significance. So I would challenge you to look at that. Ms. Perry, did you have anything?
Just a quick question on, in the case of a nonprofit that has unexpended funds at the end of a fiscal year, is that due to not having enough employees to be able to get out there and fulfill requests, or what is that?
It depends on the contractor. Sometimes it is capacity, other times it could be that there were complaints and work that was not done correctly, so maybe they've had to spend too much time correcting that work. What we have tried to do is to avoid having excess funds at the end of the year, since we do have wait lists in almost every area in the city. So what we did last year, I think you may remember, is that we actually did a reprogramming last October to be able to help with the wait list in South LA. So there could be several issues, but those are some of the reasons.
We good? Okay, then on this item, without objection, we will adopt the CAO report. Thank you all very much. Now, again, that we have a full committee, Mr. City Attorney, items 1 through, in fact, Ms. Perry, we, as communication from the chair, we acted on items 1 through 5.
Thank you.
Would, if you have any concerns,
No.
okay, then we would consider those adopted unanimously from the committee, and also items 7 through 10. Okay. Those will be considered adopted as well. Ms. Barclay, is there any more business before this committee?
No, sir.
Then this committee is adjourned.